Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching Beyond the Headline. Our focus tonight remains the Mumbai horror. We have been following it right from last evening when that massive, larger-than-life billboard came crashing down, crushing human beings and cars alike. But what has followed since those hours is horrifying. The lapses that were not there just for a day, but have stayed on for a year. We have so much more to share, including some exclusive accesses by Mirror Now. But first, let's take you through the headlines. "14 people have been killed after an illegal hoarding crashes in Mumbai's Ghatkopar. Tragedy forces a sleeping government and BMC to act. 3 other illegal billboards in the area have been removed." Aam Aadmi Party officially breaks its silence on the alleged assault of Swati Maliwal. Party accepts its MP was misbehaved with by Kejriwal's aide, but the silence is broken after more than 24 hours. Aam Aadmi Party assures strict action even as BJP demands Arvind Kejriwal's resignation. Big update in the Delhi liquor policy scam case. Enforcement Directorate tells Delhi High Court that the Aam Aadmi Party will be named as accused in the case. This will be the first time a political party will be named as an accused in a graft case. Prime Minister Narendra Modi files his nomination from Varanasi as he eyes a third straight term from Kashi. Declares his total assets amounting to 3.2 crore rupees in his poll affidavit. Prime Minister declared that he owns no car, no house or shares. India's tech hub Bengaluru grapples with the twin challenges of water management in the city. Civic bodies command center to manage cities' overflowing drains during heavy rains operationalized. BBMP also launches policy to manage cities' disappearing lakes. Weather Department issues heavy rain alert for parts of Kerala, even as State Disaster Authority issues advisory for fishermen, warning them to rough seas over the next 48 hours. Cautions people against visiting the beaches. Ladies and gentlemen, search and rescue operations are still on in Mumbai's Ghatkopar. Over 30 hours since larger-than-life billboard came crashing. Who killed the 14 citizens of this country? Ordinary people like you and me. Look at this billboard. Bigger than the size of an Olympic pool. Let that sink in. The size of this billboard is bigger than the size of an Olympic pool. Olympic swimming pool, almost 120 by 120 square feet. Do you know what is allowed? It's just 40 by 40, the size of a school bus. Now imagine this. What's allowed is a school bus size. What is up, erected straight for everybody to see is an Olympic size swimming pool. Which means this killer billboard is 9 times more than the permissible limits in terms of area. But no, it's not the killer billboards. That's a wrong term. I'll tell you why. Because that shifts the goalpost like politicians are doing now. It's not the killer billboard. It's leaders. BMC officials and politicians responsible for these deaths. Let me tell you why. One interview with proof, which cannot be denied by any stakeholder. A series of complaints had been sent officially to BMC Advertising Board among several others. Mirror now has accessed them. My colleague Shweta has spoken exclusively to a complainant who not only filed a complaint over the last few years, but also received a BMC response. And the BMC said, that line is up on your screen, that it's not within their domain. We have started accessing these complaints from 2022 onwards. First, let's listen in to the complainant.
The bunch of papers what you see in his hands are the complaints what they have given. They have given to MMRDA, they have given to BMC as well. Now these papers speaks a lot that already the complaint was given several times to various agencies but all went in vain. कुणाल, आप यहाँ पर पेपर्स के साथ मौजूद हैं और आपने बताया, कल भी हमने जब बात की थी आपने कहा कि आपको पहले से आशंका थी कि ये 4 बोर्ड्स हैं. आप जब अप्रोच करें बीएमसी को, उनका क्या कहना था? बीएमसी ने हाथ ऊपर, एमएमआरडी ने पहला एमएमआरडी से हम लोग ने शिकायत की थी. एमएमआरडी बोले कि ये एमएमआरडी ने अभी बीच में गए साल में ये हैंडओवर किया था कि बीएमसी को हम लोग जो सब रोड से वो बीएमसी को हम लोग हैंडओवर कर देंगे. लेकिन फिर इन लोग ने क्या किया, एमएमआरडी ने सीधा जवाब दे दिया कि हम लोग बीएमसी को हैंडओवर किया, अभी हम लोग के हाथ में. बीएमसी का क्या जवाब? बीएमसी के हम लोग बीएमसी को जब हम लोग ने फॉलो किया तो बीएमसी बोलने लगा कि ये जगह ही हमारा नहीं है, ये जगह रेलवे का है. उन्होंने इतना मैडम मुझे डॉक्यूमेंट्स दिए कि ये जगह हमारा नहीं. ये कोर्ट का उनका जजमेंट है, रेलवे का और बीएमसी का जो केस चालू है वो पिटीशन उन लोग ने हम लोग को थमाया कि ये जो रोड है, मतलब ये जो जगह है ये लैंड रेलवे का है. ये जो प्रॉपर्टी कार्ड है, देखो मैडम, ये प्रॉपर्टी कार्ड है और इसके ऊपर सीधा लिखा हुआ है कि ये होम डिपार्टमेंट पुलिस हेडक्वार्टर, मतलब ये जगह जो है ये जगह महाराष्ट्र शासन की है, ये पुलिस की जगह नहीं है. तो पुलिस की जगह नहीं है तो ये पुलिस, फिर ये बीएमसी क्यों ऐसा बोल रही है कि ये जगह पुलिस की है?
Now look at these 3 illegal billboards being removed from Ghatkopar area earlier this evening. Why was this action not taken before? In fact, my colleagues confirmed that there were at least 4 illegal hoardings of Ego Media Private Limited in this area. That's the billboard that came crashing down as well. So 4 in this area of this particular company, including, as I mentioned, the Olympic-sized swimming pool equivalent of billboard. That was erected in 2023, of course, and got its Limca record in January 2024. And it stayed on till it came crashing down, crushing humans and cars like worthless asides at its mercy. BMC has said that the billboard was illegal. What was BMC doing all this while? Where is the owner of the killer billboard? Police says nothing. How does an illegal hoarding get a Limca record? No answer. For the no objection certificate, who gave the structural clearances? Particularly if that's the rule in Maharashtra, how was it flouted? Let's quickly get you a sense of how the horror has unfolded since last evening.
In fact, I'm showing you the visuals of the crane, in fact, that has been put to rescue now. This particular crane is dismantling the huge metallic billboard that has collapsed in the evening due to storm.
जब बारिश आए तब लोग उसके नीचे आके खड़े हो गए थे. बाइक वाले, रिक्शा वाले, 4 व्हीलर वाले, ये सब अंदर फंसे हुए हैं. अभी तक 1520 जन लोग को निकाला है नीचे. 1520 जन को निकाला है. अभी बोल नहीं सकते अंदर कितने जन और कितने नहीं.
The vehicles which were present inside the petrol pump, they have been absolutely damaged, and in the visuals you can see how badly they have been damaged, and the people who are inside this, they are critically injured. As per the BMC data now, what it says is that more than 30 people are still in critical situation. Several are being discharged and several are still in hospital. We spoke to disaster management team officers. They told us that there are structural lapses in this particular billboard which was being put up. The depth of this particular leg should have been more than 7 meters, but it is visibly not even 3 meters, and that is a main lapse, and that's what led to the collapse of this particular billboard. Secondly, he mentioned that there should have been certain holes in the billboard.
Well, it's been more than 24 hours and we are reporting from the ground zero, and around me you can still see the debris plus the scrap of the vehicles which were crushed after the collapse of more than 100 feet tall metallic hoarding which collapsed yesterday due to dust storm and heavy rain. Here we are showing you the visuals that after the manual search by NDRF, they are still trying that if there are any chances of somebody still being stuck inside the debris. Moving ahead, we are showing you the entire place has been cleared. Yesterday there was a whole of rumble and debris over this place, and what we also understand is that the agency have ensured that in the vicinity of Ghatkopar there are 3 more illegal hoarding that has to be removed.
This is unacceptable. And remember, all of this is happening in the thick of elections. As people are voting, Prime Minister Modi is going to be in Ghatkopar tomorrow. I'm being joined right now by Dr. Neville A. Mehta, a former CEO. Mumbai First. Shailesh Gandhi, a former CIC. Aditya Pratap, advocate. And Shailesh Sinha, CEO, the Traffic People Foundation. Thank you very much, all 4 of you, for joining us. Let me first start with you, Mr. Aditya Pratap. You have raised complaints about this, I believe. You have in the past raised serious concerns about this, even officially. Tell us.
Well, when approvals become a game of money, all precautions, etc., are thrown to the wind. I have appeared several years back in a case involving illegal hoardings in CRZ areas. And that time, whatever the outcome of the court decision was, the disastrous consequences of hoardings have not been taken adequately into account. Now, when you look at the development control regulations of Mumbai 2034, DC regulation 46 pertains to hoardings. And DC regulation very clearly states that hoardings, especially those hoardings which stand on the ground, should be governed by the National Building Code of India. And as per National Building Code of India, maximum height of a hoarding can be 40 feet by 40 feet, maximum 9 meters or 12 meters from the ground level. And here we have a hoarding which crosses 33 meters. And moreover, Part 6 of the National Building Code of India, which was also applicable, places heavy reliance on wind data, turbulence data. What is the effect of the wind current on the hoarding? Because it becomes like the sail of a ship. And it's a simple principle of physics that force of the wind at the top of the hoarding will act as a lever. But the point is, for the money-obsessed officials of BMC, there is nothing. These are the same municipal officials who grant builders 20, 30 times the normal FSI and allow them to flout fire safety norms, this, that. You think these corrupt BMC officials will care about hoardings? Not at all. And moreover, if you look at it, that there are also stringent provisions on hoardings this is a hoarding on a national highway, where even the necessary NOC from the Highways Authority, etc. And when we look at the sequence of facts also, BMC says they issued demolition notice. Let me put a question to BMC. Such a huge hoarding the size of a building structure, ward officials are very smart. They immediately know that something is amiss and they could have stopped the construction then and there. But fact of the matter is, only when the entire civil society started raising a concern, they started dragging their feet to show that yes, they're doing something. And by then this tragedy happened. What more can we expect?
Absolutely. No, Aditya, I can totally understand where your anger is coming from. And I don't think any one of us or any of our viewers can even I mean, everybody shares the same emotion as you are. You've raised some very, very pertinent points as well. Shailesh Gandhi, if I may, next to you. Um, a Limca record, for that matter, so it's not something that's very small. It's a larger than life hoarding. And there's a supernatural, if I may say, blindfold on all authorities who now are shifting the goalpost. BMC says so and so is responsible, Railway says so and so is responsible, politicians say so and so is responsible. So in our country, if you look at revenue versus lives, our lives just so cheap?
First and foremost, I think we should all commiserate with the people who lost their family members in this horrible, avoidable tragedy. This is murder. This is not a horror accident. It's a murder. And this is because there's been no concern for safety.
Absolutely.
No concern for legal issues. We rank very poor in the rule of law index. In the world, we are at 79. We cannot become a first-rate nation with such a poor ranking in legal compliance. 40 feet by 40 feet and 120 feet by 120 feet. If somebody tells me the municipal officers cannot spot this difference immediately, they've got to be joking. There are, I believe, around 1,000 legal hoardings in Mumbai, and the illegal hoardings definitely outnumber them. And there is no attempt to do anything. There was an audit that was carried out some years back on this, recommendations were made. And I believe the High Court had said that all hoardings must carry a permit number, the name of the person who's responsible for putting up this hoarding, all of which is not being done at all. Even in the legal hoardings, this is not done. And I think a simple way would be all our anti-corruption measures fail. The Anti-Corruption Bureau, the Vigilance Departments, the CBC, the Lokpal, none of these work. The best monitors are the citizens for controlling illegal activities. And you've rightly identified citizens who've complained about this and have received no response. Here is the time to insist that immediately response should be given and action taken against those who have done their responsibility. We do not punish people for not following the law. We do not punish people for corruption. And 90%, if it goes the way normal things go, this will continue like this. After a few months, we'll all have forgotten about this and nobody will pay any penalty for this. I wish we insist that BMC must put up a list of licensed holdings and where they are located and immediately deal with complaints of illegal holdings. That's the least we can do for respect for law. Otherwise, there's no respect for law. There's no political will. And we'll continue this thing, accident after accident, counting the number of deaths, and it'll lead us nowhere. I wish media were also to take up post these incidents 6 months later as to what happened. Did anybody get punished or nobody got punished? We don't punish people.
Neville Mehta, so the owner of this company who got a Limca record for the hoarding is incommunicado. We don't know where is he. Police has no response on him. He would have got umpteen number of ads or revenue based on this. We don't know. Higher chances considering what the estimates are, what the studies show, he would have got this. But that's the least of all the points. The point remains, how does a man who is an accused in this particular case, and there are a series of violations against his name, series of violations for illegal billboards. How is he not under the scanner? And how does only a small fine manage to give him any form of retribution? Dr. Neville Mehta. Dr. Neville Mehta.
Yes.
Dr. Neville Mehta, if you can hear me, my question to you at this point is, here's a businessman who has been, who's got a Limca record for his billboards, the killer billboards as it's being called today. And in that particular area, you have 4 billboards of his, of the Ego Media Limited. And this gentleman is incommunicado. And because there was such a massive collapse of a structure larger than life, you suddenly have all the other 3 billboards removed. Is this how the richest municipal body, if I may, is going to function in India? And it's not just about the richest municipal body, it's really about the financial capital. Financial capital where hoardings, billboards should be the norm. Why not? But there is no process that seems to be followed at all in this particular case. Who has killed these 14 people? We will never have an answer, looks like it.
No, I think you're right, Sneha. I think it's high time that action is taken, because corruption has become now a norm. It has become a type of way of life. Secondly, it's very evident that there was non-compliance of various rules, non-adherence of these various rules, lack of professional integrity amongst the government officers who are supposed to do their job and who are being paid. Also, we have this habit of becoming post-active, not preemptive. We don't want to preempt anything. We only step in when the calamity strikes. Then we start talking about other hoardings. Then we start talking about what happened, and we go into the causes and things like that. But we have never ever been preemptive. So it's time that India should turn the corner and be more preemptive, and talk about things which are there. This constant apathy and blatant passing the buck is an old story amongst government officials. It has never been one clear person who stands up, who's man enough to stand up and say that, yes, this is our department, we are flawed, we are sorry, and we are ready to pay whatever it takes. So all this taken into account.
No, but
I
Dr.
think,
Neville Mehta, my problem really being at this point, and you're making such valid points, but because Shailesh Gandhi has also been the former CIC, just one question, Shailesh Gandhi, to what even Dr. Neville Mehta seems to be raising and what every citizen of this country is going to be raising, isn't there a mechanism to bell the cat?
No, there is none. The average citizen, I've seen, it pains me to say this, the average citizen complains, brings to light illegalities, and nothing happens. And we keep creating more and more anti-corruption bodies who do nothing. We don't hold them to account. I think there is a Maharashtra law which says that all citizens' complaints, letters, etc. must be answered within 30 days. And failure to do that should invite disciplinary action. This law is a forgotten law in Maharashtra. It's one of the best laws that can bring about really a huge change in the governance of this country, but we are not following it. It's a law which is forgotten completely. People must respond to citizens' complaints, which is not happening. Citizens' complaints must be taken seriously, which is not happening.
All right. I also want to spend a few moments at this point, and if I can have Mr. Shailesh Sinha coming here. It's so important because really this illegal billboards is not just a problem of Ghatkopar. Ghatkopar unfortunately saw an incident where 14 people have lost their lives, over 70 have been injured. But illegal billboards have been an issue rampant across the country. There have been Supreme Court rulings on this particular case. Mr. Shailesh Sinha, would you spend a minute or two explaining to our viewers just how much of a challenge are these illegal billboards, particularly in connection to the accidents that happen in India?
First of all, my question is how much more would a commoner suffer just because of some non-pairing of municipalities, urban planning? I mean, are we living in a safer urban environment? That has been my main question since ages. We as a commoner, we have no point in any of the things happening around us. This is a hoarding. This is not just an accident. This is murder. An expert just said that it's a murder. Practically, it's a murder because it has been, first of all, hoarded at one place where too much of traffic is waiting to get the fuel done. The kind of size, the Olympic size, what you just mentioned is, it's phenomenal in terms of, it has also been featured in Limca Book of Records. I'm questioning the record people also. How could they do this kind of reporting to an illegal hoarding? And the urban planning department, municipality, public at large, are they taken into consideration when it comes to, hoarding placement? Are we checking the integrity, solidity of that hoarding? We are in a coastal zone where the winds are at a fabulous highest of the paces, and the more you go higher, the winds are at its maximum. As physics law also just mentioned by one of the experts, that how could it stop those winds? It would work like a sail of a ship or a boat, right? This has happened. And it was raining so heavily, winds were so fast. How could a municipality ignore these kind of things happening? It is all about miscoordination.
Absolutely.
It is all about
Absolutely.
I would say the corruption which is prevailing the system. It is corruption prevailing the system.
Not just the municipality, of course, the municipality, but
how much more
the MP, the MLA, the commissioner, the chief minister, the former chief minister, every single person in this case.
My point
Quite frankly, you're absolutely right. But Shailesh Sinha, if you could just spend a minute, and this is very important for our viewers to understand. It's absolutely. Shailesh, it's also very important for our viewers because many may think this is about accidents of billboards falling down and killing people, which often gets reported on television, in news media for that matter. But my question also is, there are studies that show about how billboards, wrongly placed, wrongly positioned, actually lead to incremental road accidents, which India is very infamous for.
Yeah, indeed. On the highways, if the winds are strong, it would just fly away, fly off, and it can hit a car, two-wheeler, so many things. There has to be a norm. I'm again telling you, it's a failure of urban planning. Municipality is one part of it. What is urban planning department doing in all these aspects? Because even if a tree is planted, it is coming under urban planning. And how can you, put a billboard like this, 33 meters tall, a swimming pool size, and where is the department sleeping? Where are the MPs? Where are the local authorities? Where are the municipality? Where are the people at large who are not taken into consideration when it comes to, putting in such kind of, it is practically hazardous, which just happened last evening at, Ghatkopar. So it is all about misplanning, it is all about corruption, it is all about non-taking of, inputs of commoner. It is basically the biggest accident hazards also, because India is seeing, the world is seeing strong winds across, the world is seeing strong winds across. So it is a very, 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 very prior thing for the department to take into consideration. Don't look for money, look for lives. It is not only 14 people. 14 is just a figure what you're getting. The kind of staff a petrol pump has, it's more than 30, 40. Wonder, what are you talking? It's only 14 and all the people are there getting the fuel done. It's not 14, it's way too more than that. It is just that it is shown 14. My point is, please wake up authorities, please wake up municipality, please wake up urban planning, please think for commoner. Life is not like that, which has gone like that. The way it has gone in the evening, last evening. Families destroyed, so many things destroyed just for your money. What is this? What are we living in?
I totally understand just how outraged you are. I totally understand, Shailesh Sinha. That's right. I totally get a sense of what you're speaking here. I totally get a sense of how disturbing this has been for you. But it's also important for our viewers to understand that billboards are a driving menace. Particularly, there have been landmark judgments. There have been guidelines, whether it be from High Courts or the Supreme Courts, about how to position billboards in a way that they do not allow for distractionary driving, that the drivers do not get distracted, thus leading eventually to road mishaps or accidents. And a billboard like this is definitely, as visible as it can be, is wrongly positioned. But if I can come to you at this point, Aditya Pratap, you have taken up these cases in the past. you don't really see anything unfold with those cases. For a person who's been active on this field, for a person who's, there are citizens who would be looking right now and being very shocked with what has unfolded. But then there are those like you who have been actively petitioning in these cases. You have been taking these cases up before the legal system, before authorities, and yet you see nothing really unfold. What does it tell you? What's the takeaway for you?
Well, there have been cases where, like, I appeared in the case in which I had argued against, illegal hoardings being put up in CRZ areas, that no hoarding can be put up in a CRZ area without taking permission from the MCZMA, whether temporary or even banners or billboards whatsoever. Then there have been cases in the High Court where the High Court has come down heavily on the rampant proliferation of hoardings in the city. The BMC in 2018 even came out with a policy governing the type of hoardings and where it can be put up, where it cannot be put up. But in all these matters, the DC regulations have been very clear, because that the technical specifications of a hoarding should comply with the National Building Code of India. However, if you see the 2018 policy document of BMC, which pertains to guidelines for hoardings, it's a 50-page policy document. One control F, the word wind is mentioned nowhere. That thing, the BMC's policy document on hoardings, it just says you should apply for this permission, that is the fees, this report, this recommendation, and done. Just purely on procedures. There is no way to assess the probable, to anticipate the impact of a hoarding. Let me tell you, when we argue cases of environmental law, there's a doctrine called precautionary principle. That is, if a person wants to do any project, the onus of proof is against him. He cannot say that my project will not affect the environment. No, your project is presumed and deemed to have an adverse impact unless you demonstrate to the contrary. But clearly no such yardstick was applied to these hoardings. Then there is one more important legal doctrine which is applicable, doctrine of public trust, wherein the municipal corporation and the other statutory authorities, be it railways, all those who engage in the blame game and passing the buck, they are trustees they are vested with the public trust. They are trustees of public assets. They are to ensure that the right to life of people is to be protected, and they're not to consider public interest like a balance sheet. But however, ultimately, how much can courts do? Courts keep passing after orders.
Right.
Let me tell you for a fact that today the public officials who are in Maharashtra, they don't even care for court orders. Even if the Bombay High Court passes a judgment, jab tak Maharashtra government उस जजमेंट पे सर्कुलर नहीं निकालेगी तब तक ये लोग जजमेंट को तक नहीं मानते.
All right. No, Aditya, in fact, I'm being joined by two politicians as well, two political representatives, their spokespersons as well. I'll go to them in a bit to get a sense of exactly to answers or questions that all of you have been asking. But before I say goodbye to all four of you, Dr. Neville, do you want to say the last remarks? And I want to ask you this question. In fact, I can see them in the frame, so let me just introduce them at this point. Shaina NC, the spokesperson for BJP, joins us, as well as Pranay Ajmera, a political analyst. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. We have a panelist here who have been extremely upset with what has unfolded. They have just one thing to say, that irrespective of who's in power, irrespective of who's the politician, irrespective of who runs the BMC, it's just shifting goalposts about how rules have been flouted day in and out. Dr. Neville, before I go to the two political speakers, can I just very quickly ask you, tomorrow Prime Minister Modi is going to be in Ghatkopar. It's the election season. It's the peak of election season. Mumbai is going to vote. How are voters going to be looking at this?
Sneha, this is basically not only the political, it's not just a political issue. I think it's an issue which is far larger, far greater, and far deeper. The most important thing, which I think none of you all have understood, is there was a major disaster which would happen because the fuel pump has got a lot of fuel in it. If there was one spark which went to the wrong place, this whole place would have blown up like, as if there's an atom bomb or something of that sort. And much more lives would have, been,
Absolutely.
At what I would say is at stake. So let us not bask in our glory and say that this is a small issue and this and that. This is a very serious issue that has happened, and it goes beyond politics. But if Mr. Modi is coming to Ghatkopar, it's high time since he professes that he is a man who gets work done and he's a doer and he's not just a person who speaks, he should see that every person involved in this mishap, right from the top man to the man who originally gave the permission to put up this heinous hoarding, should be booked. Not only booked, but his life should also be destroyed as the life of those people and families whose lives have been destroyed. This is the only way that the people who are in the position of allowing people to flout rules will understand that it's now time for them to follow the
Right.
rules like any one of us. If we park a car and no parking, even for a minute, we are charged 500 rupees. And this very big, heinous hoarding is there for last so many years. And you mean to say that none of them, right from the police, the BMC, the local politician, the local MLA, nobody could think
Right.
about it?
Right.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, even a 5-year-old child,
Absolutely.
if a question is asked him, will say, this smells of total corruption, apathy, and it is something that needs absolute attention and maybe a judicial inquiry. And maybe the judicial inquiry should also have citizens like Shailesh Gandhi. I know Shailesh very well, and Shailesh would bear me out that we need people like him also on the panel so that things are not brushed under the carpet and the people are booked and things do not end up
Right.
by saying, oh, we'll let you know what's happening. It has to be time bound and people should be
Right.
responsible for that, should be punished.
Thank
This is
you.
what I have to say.
Right, Dr. Neville, thank you very much. Shailesh Gandhi, thank you very much for taking up the time, giving us some very important insights. Aditya Pratap, thank you so much. I do hope that you will keep your activism alive. And Shailesh Sinha, thank you very much for joining us. Either of you are free to stay if you would want to. If you have any questions to ask of our political panelists as well, you're free to leave as well if you would want to. Thank you so much. Shaina NC, you heard our panelists speak. Let me just come across to you first, Shaina. The question I have to ask both of you is, who killed these 14 people? Shaina, to you first.
I think this case is something that really makes every individual feel bad for the victims, but also shows us the lacunas in the system. You have somebody who's questionable, this Bhavesh Bhinde, has over 30 criminal cases against him. Now, if you look at the kind of process the BMC normally practices, it was a 40 by 40 feet banner, which was 3 times the size. He has had a lot of political insulation, and we know that his previous company was also blacklisted. He has been charged for many criminal complaints, be it rape and many such others. I'm not sitting here on judgment, but we know that his proximity to a certain family and the way he manipulated BMC rules, how he got these kind of hoardings put up in collusion with BMC officials and the political powers that be, I think that this is a very big wake-up call. This is not just a wake-up call for those who try to manipulate the system, but it is also a wake-up call for us as Mumbaikars to understand that the administration that needs to be accountable needs to be part of this too. But the fact that this man, Mr. Bhinde, had 30 criminal cases and including a case of rape, how his previous organization and his ad company was actually blacklisted by the BMC, was not allowed to be a part of the tender process. So how is it that he set up another entity by another name? And look at the arrogance of the name to call it ego media.
Shaina,
meaning you
allow
are
me a
using
minute.
your ego for all kinds of...
Shaina, a minute. I'm going to raise all the points that you are raising, and I'm going to take it to Pranay Ajmera. But one question to you, and I believe the other panelists, they have stayed back because they want to listen to this discourse, they want to be part of it as well. But Shaina, one question before I take all of your allegations to Pranay, and I allow other panelists to ask also. One question to you, Shaina. For all that you have alleged, in the last 1 year, The government could not do anything against illegal hoardings. It was not on the radar for them in Maharashtra.
Look, Sneha, I'd be lying if I say there are no lacunas in the system. But this is not a recent case. This man who also had a political allegiance to a particular party, contested elections unsuccessfully, had a company which was blacklisted, formed another company, has so many criminal cases against him. I think the list is endless, how he has violated contracts with the BMC, how he has been corrupt. And I think that, of course, he will be taken to task. But what is the wake-up call? The wake-up call is that if there is a 40 by 40 feet hoarding which is given under normal course of permission and you make it 3 times the size, you're bound to have this kind of casualty. So I think rather than getting into a blame game,
that
I would
continues
only
to
want
stay
to
in your
say
answer.
that we need to... Yes. Violation of rules.
But the truth
being
also
the main
remains, 30
cause.
hours
And
since this came down crashing, the gentleman, the owner of this company still remains incommunicado completely, and that itself is extremely telling. But Pranay Ajmera, to what China NC said is what several politicians have been saying, the alleged proximity to a particular family, the lacunas, how rules were overlooked, all of these things.
Ma'am, let me be very clear and to be very honest, a little blunt on this particular issue when you connect politicians with the administration, ma'am. Ma'am, for the last 2 years, elections are on hold in the Maharashtra. The BMC is being run and administered by the authorities, by the babus, by the adhikaris, and not by the politicians. This is my first submission to this. Secondly, ma'am, these babus have a mindset that Mehta will come and go, but we are gonna stay here. And so any businessman who try to get things done according to the way he wants develops a good rapport with the babus sitting in the headquarters of BMC or any other government organizations. These babus, in return of whatsoever stuff, do a lot of favor by going out of the box to this businessman, this business fraternity, and this is what the outcome. This is what the outcome is, ma'am. If the holding was illegal,
I don't agree with what you are saying for 2 reasons. Very simple, sir. Your very foundation, your very basis of approaching this problem is wrong. And I'll tell you exactly why. Babus are not elected by people. The representatives are elected by people. The babus are not accountable to people. The other leaders are. So your very basis of this, that political patronage needs to be separated from babus, falls flat. It doesn't echo with me at all. But having said that, let me just go across to Shailesh Sinha, who knows all of this far better than I do. Shailesh Sinha, do you want to ask anything? Do you want to comment anything to what you've heard?
Way, I mean, the lady was explaining,
Sorry,
it is really
I meant Shailesh Gandhi.
I mean, 30. Okay.
No, go ahead, Shailesh Sinha. Since you spoke, please go ahead. I was asking this to Shailesh Gandhi, but please go ahead, Shailesh Sinha, since you have started.
I mean, it's an awakening call for the country as a whole. I mean, this is the kind of collaboration which is happening between the netas, the authorities, and people are at risk at large. I mean, this is a basic question that are we safe in the urban planning zone? I mean, I know there's a stretch called DND on Delhi and Noida connecting
Question
stretch.
mark. I think whole of India is asking that.
Yamuna River,
whole of India is asking that. That's a very genuine question.
Yeah. My point is, I'm telling you.
Absolutely. Shailesh Gandhi, I'm totally out of time.
I mean, there's an irrigation department. See. There's an irrigation
Shailesh
department
Gandhi,
which is on.
You heard both the politicians' part. No, let me just go across to Shailesh Gandhi at this point. Shailesh Gandhi, you heard both the political panelists speak what they did. You know the system far better than we do, Shailesh Gandhi. What would you speak? What would your remarks or question be at this point?
Can we get a commitment?
Not just to both of them, but to the larger political circle.
No. If we want to move to a better governance structure, not just on holdings, but on everything. Two simple things could make a huge difference. A, all information about license holdings, etc., should be put up on the website. All holdings must carry the permission number and the name of the owner. Two, we should have an accountable system in which when a citizen files a complaint with BMC or state government or central government, within 30 days a reply will be given. This is part of the law in Maharashtra, which is not being followed by Maharashtra government, and it's part of DOPT's circulars also. We have great policies, but we have no implementation, and we are shamelessly flouting laws completely. I'm saying completely, and I wish the political class would realize that they cannot flout laws. And if we, media and citizens together, start insisting that laws must be followed, I think we'd be a much better nation.
All right, 30 seconds. Shaina NC, to you, how do you respond? And I have to ask you this. It is the political season. It is the election of elections. It's the mother of all elections that's that's happening currently. Prime Minister Modi is going to be there. It's not about Prime Minister Modi alone. It's about all political parties. But what's the messaging going out at this time? Even as leaders are going and asking for votes, life seems so cheap.
Sneha, in all honesty, I must say that, this is a wake-up call because you have the authorized sector and you have the unauthorized sector. And despite the fact that apologetic is being one part of this debate, why were these permissions given? You have such huge hoardings, 120 feet by 120 feet, and it is given by absolute wrong permissions, collusion with political parties, political leaders, and of course with the administration. So I think securing contracts, there has to be a list. Violations, there has to be a penalty, and more importantly, there need to be guidelines.
So
because
Shaina,
if you have somebody who has been blacklisted in BMC for whatever reasons and then is given permission on under another name, it also talks about illegalities which are being overlooked. So if there are lacunas in the system, it needs to be tightened.
Shaina, so
and
are
we
you
need
then
to
saying
take
starting
cognizance
tomorrow
of every life
or
lost?
day after, because there is a horror unfolding. Search operations are still undergoing right now. But starting tomorrow or day after, are you then saying the Maharashtra we are going to see a crackdown on illegal hoardings for starters in Maharashtra?
Absolutely, without doubt. And let me please say on Mirror now, whether it's our Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis or our Chief Minister Eknath Shinde or even Ajit Pawar, this is a priority issue, and this whole billboard mafia that puts up illegal hoardings and has sometimes taken valid permissions, sometimes not taken permissions, broken faulty rules and lacunas in the system, these illegalities cannot be overlooked.
Okay, nothing can bring back the lives of those 14 people, and the time lost has been precious. Parties have changed, the government has changed in Maharashtra, but the challenge remains the same, and unfortunately, it's not just Maharashtra's problem, it's India's problem. Pranay Ajmera, how would you want to respond to this?
Definitely, ma'am, this is a problem which has to be looked without the spectacle of politics, but with the social well-being and with the real well-being of the people of Maharashtra and in particular and country in general. Ma'am, we have to come up with the strict guidelines, and when we are coming up with the strict guidelines, we have to follow the rules. We have to come up with the ways where we can follow those strict guidelines. We have to make certain arrangements. We have to make certain special rules where we can compel these mafias or these businessmen or these holders or these holding people to follow the rules as enshrined by the law, law enforcing authorities. At the same time, BMC and other authorities have to be on their toes. They have to keep a check on these mafias. And if something is going wrong, it has to be acted upon immediately. They are not supposed to wait for some contingency. We are not supposed to wait
Thank you so much for those comments. Unfortunately, the truth remains across the political spectrum, whether it be both the alliances opposing each other politically. All of them had the time and the opportunity to act on this. They did not. We've seen one fallout, a miserable one. Hopefully, we will not be reporting a second one. Dr. Neville Mehta, Shailesh Gandhi, Shailesh Sinha, Shaina NC, and Pranay Ajmera, thank you very much for your time. We are very grateful. It's nearly 11 in the night, but you've stayed on with us. It matters so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's time for a very short break.